They will never admit it out loud. Not your teachers, not your politicians, not the people in your neighborhood who smile politely when they see you walking alone. But deep down, society does not fear armies, corporations, or even governments. It fears something far more dangerous. It fears you, a man who cannot be owned. You think they mock you because you are single. You think they pity you because you walk alone. But the truth is darker. They don't hate you because you are weak. They fear you because you are free. Marriage, family, debt, religion, politics, these are chains. Chains designed to domesticate the man, to make him predictable, to trap him inside obligations so heavy he can no longer resist. But when you are single, when you owe nothing, when no ring locks you, when no children bind you, suddenly you are not chained. Suddenly you are unpredictable, and the unpredictable man terrifies society. And Z warned us, the herd does not despise the wolf because it is evil. It despises the wolf because it is free. And that is you, the lone wolf among the herd of sheep. Look at history. Socrates condemned for corrupting the youth. What was his crime? He lived as a question mark, not a servant. Diogenes, the man who slept in a barrel, mocked kings and priests alike. What was his crime? He refused to kneel. Tesla, a man who never married, who gave the world electricity but died alone. What was his crime? He belonged to no one. Every culture invents stories to demonize the single man. They call him the predator, the failure, the unstable loner. But these are masks carefully crafted to hide the deeper fear. That a man with no master is a man with no leash. And if you have no leash, you are not a servant. You are not a follower. You are not another cog in their great machine. You are a danger to it. This is why society hurries to shame you. Why aren't you married yet? Why don't you have children? Why don't you settle down? They ask these questions not to protect you, but to protect themselves. Because if too many men were to live like you, society itself would tremble. Think about it. A man with no wife cannot be threatened with divorce. A man with no children cannot be manipulated with guilt. A man with no boss cannot be bribed with promotion. And a man with no chains cannot be controlled. This is why they fear you. Because you are not stupid. Because you are not owned. Because you are dangerous. And if you watch until the end of this video, you will understand the full truth Nietzsche was pointing to, that the single man is not society's outcast. He is society's nightmare. Society loves the herd. The herd is predictable. The herd follows rules, pays taxes, marries young, produces children, and never asks why. The herd is safe because it moves together. And when one sheep strays too far, the herd drags it back, bites at it, or abandons it to wolves. Not because the herd loves safety, but because the herd fears freedom. Nietzsche called it herd morality, the instinct of the many to enforce sameness on everyone else. What is good? Whatever makes the herd stronger. What is evil? Whatever threatens the herd's illusions. And nothing threatens the herd more than the solitary man. When you are single, when you refuse to kneel before the contracts of marriage and the rituals of obedience, you stand outside their control. You break the illusion that everyone must submit. You are proof that freedom is possible, and that proof destabilizes everything. Think of Diogenes, the mad philosopher of Athens. He slept in a barrel, owned nothing, and mocked the powerful. When Alexander the Great, the most feared man in the world, stood before him and asked, "What can I give you?" Diogenes didn't kneel. He didn't flatter. He said, "Move out of my sunlight." The conqueror of nations reduced to a shadow by one solitary man. Do you see it? The herd cannot bear the solitary because he shows them how weak they are. He shows them that power is not in numbers. It is in the man who refuses to bow. Nyxarustra walks down from the mountain to speak to men, but he does not stay with them. He leaves again because the crowd corrupts the spirit. The herd wants comfort. The solitary wants truth. And this is why society demonizes you. They tell you get married, settle down, be responsible. But what they mean is join the herd, become predictable, be chained like us. Because the sight of your freedom is unbearable. Even the church feared the solitary. The desert monks of early Christianity abandoned society, walked into the wilderness, and lived alone with God. What happened? They were called madmen, heretics, rebels. Why? Because even religion which preaches self-denial cannot tolerate a man who refuses its leash. Do you see the pattern yet? Every system, political, religious, economic, depends on the herd, and every herd fears the man who does not belong. So they brand him dangerous. They call him arrogant. They call him selfish. They call him lost. But these are disguises. The truth is simpler. They fear him because he reminds them that they are slaves. And here is the inversion that needs to forces you to face. What society calls good, obedience, conformity, compromise is weakness. What society calls evil, solitude, defiance, disobedience is strength. You have been taught to be ashamed of walking alone. But shame is the herd's weapon. They shame you so you never discover your power. Because the moment you realize solitude is not loneliness, but freedom, you are untouchable. Think about your own life. How many times have you been told you can't live like this forever? How many times have you been pied as if being single were a disease? That pity is not concern. It is fear disguised as advice. They are afraid of you because you are not trapped like them. And here is the truth you must accept. The herd will never celebrate your freedom. They will never applaud your independence because every step you take alone feels like a rebuke to their chains. But you do not need their applause. You do not need their validation. You do not need the herd, because one solitary man standing free carries more power than 1,000 chained together. So the question is no longer, why does society fear me? The question is, why would you ever want to belong to it? Power has always belonged to the man who needs the least. That is the secret society never wants you to know. The easiest man to control is the one drowning in obligations. A mortgage, a wife, 2 children, car payments, a boss who feeds him just enough to keep him alive. That man cannot move. He cannot rebel. He cannot risk. He is predictable. He is safe. He is harmless. But you are different. You are single. And that independence makes you dangerous because you cannot be threatened with divorce. You cannot be trapped by guilt. You cannot be bought with a promotion. And you cannot be blackmailed with the fear of losing everything. Why? Because you already live outside their game. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that the man who cannot be bribed or blackmailed is the most dangerous of all. A prince may control armies. A priest may control minds. But the man who belongs to no one cannot be owned by either. Look at modern life. The entire system is built on dependence. They want you in debt. They want you married too soon. They want you tied down with endless bills and obligations. Why? Because a man chained to responsibility has no time, no energy, and no courage left to resist. But what happens when you step outside? When you have no wife demanding compromise, no children demanding obedience, no debt demanding submission, suddenly you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. A single man can wake up tomorrow and leave everything behind. He can vanish into a new city. He can change careers overnight. He can take risks the herd would never dare. And this terrifies society. Because the truth is simple. Control only works on those who have something to lose. And when you are single, You have less to lose than anyone else. That is why they mock you. They call you immature, selfish, irresponsible. But understand this, their insults are not descriptions. They are weapons. Weapons designed to scare you back into the cage. Think about it. A man with nothing tying him down is a man who can move like a shadow. A man with no leash cannot be pulled. A man with no master cannot be commanded. This is why your independence is their weakness. Because the moment you realize you can live without their approval, their system begins to crack. The man who can walk away is the most powerful man in the room. And you, as a single man, hold that power. The power to vanish, the power to refuse, the power to live on your own terms. Society fears you not because you are alone, but because you are untouchable. They cannot predict you. They cannot control you. And what cannot be controlled must be feared. So ask yourself this. Are you still ashamed of your independence, or do you finally see it for what it is? The very thing that makes you dangerous. If freedom is your strength, then demonization is their weapon. Because society knows it cannot chain you by force. So instead, it tries to chain you with shame. Think about the images you see every day. The single man is mocked as a loser in sitcoms. He is the creepy neighbor in movies, the unstable loner in the news. If he is successful, they call him selfish. If he is quiet, they call him antisocial. If he is independent, they call him dangerous. Do you see the pattern? Whatever shape he takes, the single man is always portrayed as broken. Not because he is broken, but because society must make him look broken, or else everyone else will see the truth that he is free. NZ called this resentment the sickness of the weak. It is the strategy of those who cannot rise on their own, so they drag others down with insults, slander, and moral judgment. Whatever shape he takes, the single man is always portrayed as broken, not because he is broken, but because society must make him look broken, or else everyone else will see the truth that he is free. NZ called this resentment the sickness of the weak. It is the strategy of those who cannot rise on their own, so they drag others down with insults, slander, and moral judgment. They envy your freedom, but instead of admitting it, they attack it. They cannot live as you do, so they brand your life a failure. It is projection. It is poison. It is fear disguised as morality. Look around you. If you are unmarried at 30, they whisper, "What's wrong with him?" If you choose solitude, they say, "He must be hiding something." If you reject marriage, they call you immature. But tell me this, is the man drowning in debt, trapped in a loveless marriage, suffocated by obligation? Is he truly mature, or is he just domesticated? The herd loves to invent villains, and the solitary man is their favorite. Not because you are evil, but because you refuse to be tamed. And the refusal to be tamed looks like rebellion to those who live on their knees. This is why every culture invents cautionary tales about you. The spinster is mocked as bitter. The bachelor is mocked as pathetic. The monk is mocked as insane. The hermit is mocked as useless. Why? Because each of them exposes the same forbidden possibility. That life outside the herd is not only possible, it may be stronger. And here is the inversion you must see clearly. Every insult they throw at you is proof of their fear. If you were truly powerless, they would ignore you. If you were truly pathetic, they would not waste their energy inventing stereotypes. But they cannot ignore you, because your existence is a threat. Look at the moral panic around loners. When something terrible happens, the news always says he kept to himself. The implication is clear. To be alone is to be dangerous. And in that accusation lies the confession. They know solitude creates something they cannot predict, something they cannot control. So what do? They turn your freedom into pathology. They tell you your independence is emptiness. They tell you your solitude is sickness. They tell you your refusal to kneel is failure. But understand this, the louder they shame you, the more they reveal their fear. And Cha knew it. Resentment is the weapon of the weak against the strong. It is envy, translated into morality. It is the slave pretending his chains are virtues and calling your freedom a sin. And here is where your anger should ignite, because every time you believed their lie, every time you felt inferior for walking alone, you gave them power. But not anymore. Now you see clearly their demonization is not truth. It is proof that they are afraid, proof that your very existence exposes their chains, proof that your solitude burns their illusions. So never again feel shame when they call you a loner. Wear it like armor, because every insult hurled at the single man is just another confession that society trembles before him. Society calls it loneliness, but you must see it for what it truly is. Solitude is not weakness. Solitude is the forge where dangerous men are made. When you are alone, you are not being drained by demands. No wife pulling at your time, no children consuming your energy, no herd infecting your thoughts. In solitude, you belong only to yourself, and the man who belongs only to himself cannot be owned. And Z said, become who you are, but you cannot become who you are when you are chained to noise, when every moment of your life is stolen by others. Only in solitude does the mask fall away. Only in silence do you hear your own voice. Only in aloneliness do you see what you truly are. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not by following the crowd, but by facing the depths of your own psyche. It is not an easy path. It is not a comfortable path. But it is the only path to becoming untouchable. Because when you have walked through your own darkness, no one else's shadow can frighten you. Think of the lone wolf. The herd mocks him as exiled, pitiful, doomed. But look closer. The lone wolf hunts when he wants, rests when he wants, moves where he wants. The pack must compromise, must submit, must obey. But the solitary wolf answers to no one, and that freedom makes him unpredictable. Unpredictable means untouchable. History proves it again and again. And Z himself walked the mountains alone, writing words that shattered the illusions of the herd. Jung broke from Freud and faced years of isolation, visions, and inner chaos, only to return with insights that defined psychology itself. Tesla rejected marriage, gave his life to his inventions, and left behind a legacy of power the world still feeds on. Greatness is not born in crowds. It is born in the silence of the solitary. But here is the danger. When you are alone, you cannot be read, you cannot be predicted, you cannot be tamed. Society cannot understand you. And what it cannot understand, it fears. That is why solitude is dangerous. Because a man who walks alone has nothing to hide, but also nothing to lose. Because a man who answers to no one becomes the only kind of man who is truly free. And here is the truth you must burn into your mind. Solitude is not emptiness. It is power. It is clarity. It is the place where you sharpen your mind, harden your will, and become who you were meant to be. So never again call yourself lonely. You are not lonely. You are becoming. And when you finally emerge from that solitude, you will not be recognized as weak or pitiful. You will be recognized for what you truly are, the dangerous man society fears the most. Control is the religion of society. It does not care about truth. It does not care about justice. It cares only about one thing: predictability. That is why every system you were born into is designed to domesticate you. Religion tells you obedience is holiness. Marriage tells you compromise is love. Debt tells you slavery is responsibility. Morality tells you conformity is virtue. Different masks, same purpose. Chains dressed up as commandments, and for most men the system works. They march into the trap willingly. They bind themselves in contracts they cannot break. And once inside, they are safe, predictable, owned. But what happens when a man refuses? What happens when a man walks past the altar, past the courthouse, past the bank, and does not kneel? What happens when a man does not play the game at all? He becomes dangerous because he cannot be mapped. He cannot be predicted, and what cannot be predicted must always be feared. NZ warned of this long ago. He called such men the free spirits, those who slip through the nets of morality and refuse the herd's commands. And what did society do with them? It branded them wicked. It called them heretics. It cast them as madmen, not because they were wrong, but because they were untouchable. Look at Galileo, locked away for daring to say the earth was not the center. Look at men who refused the chains of marriage and were mocked as immature. Look at those who rejected debt and were called irresponsible. The system does not care about your well-being. It cares only about control, and control fails when you stop needing it. That is why they fear the single man, because you do not beg for their validation. You do not kneel before their rules. You do not live a life that can be bribed, blackmailed, or manipulated. And here is the paradox they cannot solve. The more they attack you, the less you need them. The more they shame you, the stronger your solitude becomes. And the stronger your solitude becomes, the weaker their chains grow. Society thrives on obedience, but rebellion begins with one man who refuses. And you, by standing outside their systems, are already that man. This is the final truth. Control works only on men who accept it. The moment you reject it, you become unreadable. The moment you become unreadable, you become untouchable. And the moment you become untouchable, you become feared. That is the law of fear. The herd cannot domesticate you. The machine cannot program you. The world cannot own you. And so it trembles not before armies, not before kings, but before the solitary man who walks away, and in walking away proves they were never needed. This is the moment of death, not your physical death. The death of the self that was owned, the man who begged for approval, the man who explained himself, the man who sat at the edge of the herd, waiting to be invited in. That man is gone. He is buried here now in this silence. From today forward, you are not a man seeking permission. You are not a man apologizing for his solitude. You are not a man begging for love, validation, or belonging. You are something else entirely. You are the man they cannot own. You are the man they cannot predict. You are the man they cannot control. Every insult they threw at you is now armor. Every shame they tried to chain you with is now broken steel at your feet. And every fear they whispered about you, dangerous, selfish, unstable, you now wear as your crown. From this moment, you walk with a different presence. You do not beg for a seat at the table. You are the man the table fears will arrive. You do not wait for recognition. You are recognition. Understand this. The weak self has died. The apologetic self has died. The own self has died. What remains is the free spirit Nietzsche warned them about, the solitary wolf who hunts, alone. The dangerous man society cannot explain, cannot bind, cannot tame. And this rebirth is not symbolic, it is real. Because once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. Once you feel the power of being unowned, you cannot return to chains. Once you have crossed this threshold, you are untouchable. So take this moment as an oath, the death of the old self, the birth of the feared self. And know this with certainty. You are no longer the man who waits. You are the man who arrives. And when you arrive, the world will not ask you to explain. It will tremble. This is not the end. This is the beginning. From this moment, you never again allow society's lies to define you. You will not bow to their shame. You will not kneel to their rules. You will not carry their chains because you are no longer the man they can own. You are the man they fear, and this channel, this brotherhood, is not built on entertainment. It is built on initiation. Every man who subscribes, every man who comments, every man who declares his presence here does not do it as a favor. He does it as a seal, a ritual, proof that he has stepped out of the herd and into the ranks of the untouchable. So understand this clearly. When you subscribe, you are not supporting me. You are swearing an oath. When you like this video, you are not pressing a button. You are carving a mark. When you comment, you are not adding words. You are declaring, I belong to no one but myself. This is the ritual of fear, the ritual of the solitary, the ritual of the man who is no longer ashamed to walk alone. And remember Nietzsche's eternal warning. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Now the struggle is yours, the oath is yours, the power is yours. You are the man society fears. Prove it.